correspondent live at Westminster, thank you very much. A reminder of the breaking news in the last hour. Police in Devon and Cornwall say they have arrested a 26-year-old man on suspicion of murder after Anne Widdecombe was found dead at her home yesterday near Dartmoor. The police say that at the moment there is nothing to suggest that it is politically motivated and that they have also ruled out terrorism. Do stay with us here on BBC News.
It's 7 p.m. in London. This is The World Today with Sarah Campbell. Police arrest a man on suspicion of murdering the former British government minister and TV personality Anne Widdecombe. Wildfires in southern Spain kill at least 12 people. 4 of them are believed to be British. At least 23 others are still missing. Ryanair admits that an aeroplane cabin window dislodged mid-air. People on board say a passenger was nearly sucked out. Buckingham Palace announces that Prince Harry, Meghan and their children have met with King Charles and Queen Camilla. Also coming up on The World Today, fans arrive at a stadium in Los Angeles where in just an hour Spain will face Belgium for a place in the World Cup semi-finals. Hello and welcome to The World Today, an hour of international news from the BBC. We start with a story that has been developing here in the UK. Police have said that they've arrested a 26-year-old man in connection with the murder of the former government minister, Anne Widdecombe. Police say they were called to an address in Dartmoor in Devon in the southwest of England on Thursday morning. They said Ms Widdecombe had sustained serious injuries. She'd served as a Member of Parliament for the Conservative Party for more than 2 decades and was a government minister in the 1990s. A staunch campaigner for Brexit, in later life she acted as a spokeswoman for the right-wing populist Reform UK party. Here's Helena Wilkinson.
It was in her house in Dartmoor where Anne Widdecombe was found dead yesterday. In a shocking development this afternoon, police said they were now treating her death as murder.
We can confirm that a 26-year-old man was arrested at an address in Newton Abbot this afternoon on suspicion of the murder of Anne Widdecombe. The suspect, who is a white British national, remains in police custody whilst inquiries continue. Officers were called to Miss Widdecombe's home at Haytor by the ambulance service around 11:40 a.m. on Thursday the 9th of July. Sadly, 78-year-old Miss Widdecombe was located deceased within the property. She has sustained serious injuries.
This was a former MP and Conservative minister just 2 days ago, talking about the Clacton by-election. She had switched parties to support reform. This evening, the Prime Minister gave his reaction to a murder inquiry being launched into her death.
Well, this is really shocking news. And my thoughts, I think all of our thoughts, will be with the family and friends of Anne Widdecombe at this awful time for them. Anne was a distinguished politician over many, many years with many achievements, and it's a huge, huge loss.
At a defence-related visit in Portsmouth earlier, the Conservative leader gave her reaction.
I'm stunned. To be honest, I don't really have the words for what we've discovered has happened. Anne Widdecombe was 78 years old. She was a fun and very feisty person, but she was an elderly person. I don't understand how someone could do something like this. It's a nasty, horrific attack.
Neighbours have also been reacting to the news.
I'm devastated. I'm shocked, and I just can't believe it. In this lovely setting where we live, it's so peaceful, and I am just absolutely devastated.
Outside Anne Widdecombe's home this evening, there's a heavy police presence. Specialist officers are carrying out forensic investigations in this murder inquiry, piecing together exactly how one of the country's most well-known politicians died. Helena Wilkinson, BBC News.
Well, our correspondent Simon Jones, who's been following the story, brought us up to date with the latest.
It's worth going through what has been a pretty shocking afternoon and one of major developments. It was announced early this morning by her agent that Ms Widdicombe had died, but at that stage they didn't give any indication of what exactly had happened, about where she had died or the circumstances surrounding it. But then dramatically during the middle of the afternoon we heard from Devon and Cornwall Police, who first said they were treating the death as suspicious, and then they released a fairly lengthy statement saying it was a murder investigation, saying Ms Widdicombe had been found yesterday at her home. The ambulance service called just before midday. And then this fast developing story, the news conference that we've just seen a clip of there, where the police revealed they have arrested a 26-year-old man from the Newton Abbot area on suspicion of murder. The police describing this as a fast-moving and wide-ranging investigation of a prominent figure in British political life, and also in reality. She was on reality shows on television, so hugely well known. So a major investigation and a huge sense of shock as what has happened.
Yeah, a politician, a very famous politician, a celebrity figure, as you're saying, but also a 78-year-old, vulnerable woman in her home. I think we very much got the sense from Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative leader's statement, when she was talking about the fact she was stunned, almost lost for words. This is a hugely shocking murder.
And you mentioned the word shocking. That is really the word that we've heard from politicians today, the Conservative leader using the word shocking, saying she couldn't understand how someone could do this to a vulnerable elderly woman, as she put it. Also the Prime Minister using that word too, and the Prime Minister appealing, saying this goes beyond any political divide. He's urging people to come forward who may have any information and help the police with their investigation. A large police presence remains outside Miss Widdicombe's home. That's likely to remain that way for some time, partly due to the investigation. You've got forensic teams who will be examining the property for any information, any clues they can find to exactly what happened. It's partly to preserve the crime scene, but also to provide some reassurance to the local community, because it's quite an isolated area where she lived, but there are other properties nearby. So people will be feeling very shocked and really rather fearful about what's happened.
That was Simon Jones speaking to me. Let's speak now to Adam Newton, Special Advisor and former Chief of Staff for Anne Widdicombe. Mr Newton, thank you so much for speaking to us today. You knew Anne Widdicombe for many years. This must be an incredibly difficult day, and our condolences to you.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Thanks for having me on. It was a sad morning to wake up to the news that Anne had passed away, and obviously as the day's gone on and the tributes and the stories about her have sort of turned into the shock of the events that have been outlined by the police, you find the sort of sadness replaced by a kind of emptiness and a horror that's quite difficult to explain. I, of course, associate myself completely with the comments from the Prime Minister and Kemi Badenoch that the feelings towards the family and friends of Anne at this point are absolutely paramount, and I know they would want anyone with any information relating to this tragedy to come forward to the police.
She was somebody who did that rare thing of transcending politics. People who didn't follow politics probably knew who Anne Widdicombe was. Part of that was because she took part in programmes like Strictly Come Dancing, but she also was somebody who was never afraid to say what she felt and was seen to be completely authentic.
I think that's right, and we mourn the loss of one of very few remaining conviction politicians, despite the fact that we may not, and I often did not, agree with the positions that she took on particular things. It is, she was the rare mix of being able to mix complete conviction and a willingness to say things in her own way and accept when those things were not the views and opinions of others, and hear the opposition back, as she often did, as well as a sort of little, perhaps less known, although I guess if you watch her on Strictly Come Dancing, you'd say you saw it, quite playful side, and somebody who was really good at engaging at quite a fun level. And whilst we probably don't think of her as particularly kind of progressive, she was one of the first politicians who saw the opportunity to harness celebrity through reality TV to become better known to audiences outside mainstream politics.
And at the same time was a formidable politician and somebody that really dedicated their adult life to politics.
Yeah, absolutely. Well known and in many ways hard as nails for the views that she had and positions that she took on certain issues. I think there's another side which is less well documented, that she actually took quite socially liberal views when it came to reforming prisons, to make prisons work, to rehabilitate better, to reform the justice system and not to use incarceration automatically for certain categories of criminal offence for young people. So there were lots of different sides to the politician too. It wasn't just a sort of tub-thumping traditionalist, as I think is often kind of categorised.
And I think, obviously the details of her death have become more and more shocking as the day has progressed. But there's a real warmth from across, I think, the political spectrum in terms of the person that Anne Widdecombe was.
And I think it's right. We've become, unfortunately, too familiar with the news of politicians, of Jo Cox, of David Amess, who tragically and ironically was one of Anne's best friends in politics, who lost their lives as politicians, and sadly now Anne too.
Adam Newton, we really appreciate you speaking to us on a really difficult day. Adam Newton, their Special Advisor and Chief of Staff for Anne Widdecombe. Thank you. Around the world and across the UK, this is The World Today on BBC News. Hello and welcome back. Wildfires have killed at least 12 people in the southern Spanish province of Almeria, with 4 British people thought to be among the dead. 23 people are still missing. Several victims were found in their cars. Firefighters are trying to contain the blaze that witnesses say was caused by a downed power line during a heat wave. Emergency services say they are fighting a terrible and very complex fire which is spreading very fast. The Andalusian regional government has declared 3 days of mourning for the victims of the fire in Los Gallardos. Spain's military emergency unit, which is deployed in major emergencies, said it would join firefighting efforts in the area, and it comes after repeated extreme heat waves across Western Europe, with temperatures peaking at over 40 degrees Celsius in parts of Spain. Here's Nick Beak.
The Spanish sky ablaze in one of the country's most deadly wildfires. There have been weeks of scorching temperatures and other blazes, but nothing like this loss of life. The tranquil southeast of the country, with rolling countryside, has long been a draw for holidaymakers. Most killed in the inferno are thought to be foreign tourists. 4 are believed to be British nationals, trapped in a car here in the village of Badar as they attempted to escape. Local resident Jose Antonio says the houses near him belonged to English families, 7 in total, all of them elderly. He'd looked after this land for decades. Now the orange trees he planted for his family nearly 40 years ago, along with his property, gone.
I'm seeing this as very bad. This is awful. A disaster not just for the woodland, but for the people who have already died and everything that has happened. The house right there up above has burned completely. It rips your soul out.
Quick!
Other victims had been trying to flee on foot, according to the local authorities.
It might be that, in searching for an escape route too late, the escape routes were not suitable and they found themselves in a dead end, a trap, with practically no way out.
Hundreds of firefighters and emergency responders have been tackling the blaze, which has already burnt through 30 square kilometres in Almería. The fire was blamed on a power line that fell down, although several electrical companies denied that was the cause. Either way, strong winds led to a rapid spread. Hundreds of people have been taken to safety in nearby sports halls, but others are still trapped. This carer pleads with the local mayor to help save the woman she's looking after.
It's very complicated. We don't know if the house has burned down or not, and the woman I'm taking care of, she can't move around easily.
Spain, along with much of southern Europe, has been suffering another heatwave, and other fires are burning. There are fears for what the rest of the summer may bring, but for now, here, shock and grief in a place where many Brits call home.
So that was Nick Beake reporting there. Well, France is activating an extreme heat emergency plan for the first time in all areas. 9 departments in Western France are being put on the highest heatwave alert today, and 24 will be affected on Saturday. France is suffering its 3rd crippling heatwave of the year, and wildfires are multiplying as a result of the intense heat and drought. So extreme weather happening all over Europe. I'm joined now by the BBC weather presenter Ben Rich. So just tell us what's causing this situation in Spain and other parts of Europe.
Well, the thing is, Sarah, the weather doesn't cause wildfires, okay? It rarely causes them, but what it does is it provides the right conditions for them to ignite and then to spread and to take hold. And that's exactly what's happened this time. We've had obviously very, very dry, very hot weather for 3 different heat waves now. So the ground is very dry. There's lots of dry fuel for that fire to burn through. And all you need is something to ignite it, and then away it goes. And we can take a look actually at how that fire developed. Now, this imagery is satellite imagery, but it's what we call thermal anomaly satellite imagery. And it shows differences in heat, essentially. And in this little area that's been circled here, watch what happens. You can see a small little orange glow that appears, and that is the heat from that fire as it started to develop. And as we run through not too many hours, you can see the way in which that fire took hold, it spread. Obviously, it looks very small on our map, but the fact we can see it on that satellite imagery just shows how significant it is, how quickly it spread on that very dry ground. We had very brisk winds as well, quite gusty conditions in that area as that fire took hold. Very low humidity as well, so very dry air, which certainly didn't help. And as you can see, yes, there were some showers in northern Spain, some thunderstorms, but southern Spain stayed dry. And really, if we run the forecast through the next few days, or next couple of days anyway, we are looking at a lot more dry weather. Still some quite gusty winds in those southern parts of Spain. Still some pretty high temperatures, although actually temperatures in the south and the west of Spain starting to come down. Portugal as well. The heat focusing itself across France, where there are many, many warnings in force for that heat. And this chart here, broadening it out across Europe, shows the areas where temperatures are going to be most above average over the next few days. Those deep reds show where we are really going to have that intense heat over the coming days.
And just when you say coming days, what sort of timescale are we talking about?
Yeah, so this really goes on for some time. So parts of Spain, Portugal cooling off a little bit over the weekend, but in France the heat will just intensify, temperatures well up into the 40s through the coming week. So throughout next week, many parts of Western Europe are going to stay hot. Temperatures for Paris, for example, 36, 37 degrees for 4 or 5 days as we go through next week. So the relief is not going to come quickly.
Now, people who have been looking online will have seen Super El Nino being mentioned quite a lot. Does this have anything to do with what's currently happening?
So El Nino is now developing in the Pacific. This is the natural climate phenomenon where we see changes in the wind flows over the Pacific, very warm water pooling over the eastern and central Pacific. It can have a big impact on global weather patterns. It would be a really neat answer to say, well, all that extra heat being released from the oceans, that's why we've got this heat wave in Europe. That really isn't the case. We're very early in that El Nino cycle. It tends to take a while for the big effects on the atmosphere to take hold. The effects in Europe are generally quite sort of diffuse, quite hard to pin down anyway. It's always a little bit vague when we say, well, is El Nino causing that? It's certainly too early in the cycle. What is really causing this? Two things. Firstly, a weather pattern that has allowed dry and hot weather to build 3 times so far this year, as we've seen across the continent. And when the ground gets hot and dry, well, that just makes it easier for more heat waves to take place. The other factor, of course, and I've been in this chair talking about this a lot over recent weeks, is climate change. We know that climate change is making heat waves around the world more frequent, more severe. Europe is the fastest warming continent on Earth. Temperatures across Europe have gone up by about 2.5 degrees since pre-industrial times. But those changes in the average temperature, when you think about that as a sort of average baseline, on top of that you get the extremes of hot weather, you push the average up, you push the extremes up as well. So we're seeing those extremes of heat more often, and when they happen, they are more severe.
And we talked about Spain and France. On that heat map, it was very much over sort of the southern parts of England as well. How much of the UK is going to be feeling quite hot over the next few days? Yeah,
the UK also vastly affected by this heat wave. We got above 35 degrees in parts of the Midlands today, so the central southern parts of the UK. We're going to see another several days of these temperatures above 30 degrees. So we're now at, I think, 6 days in a row above 30 degrees. That could run to 10 or 11 days as the heat continues on into next week. One interesting thing, this is now the 6th day in 2026 when we have seen a temperature of 35 degrees or above. That is a new record. The previous record for the number of 35-degree days was set in the summer of 1976. Of course, that notorious hot summer, everyone talks about it. It was an exception at that point. The rest of the 1970s didn't bring anything quite like that. Now we're seeing these heat waves all the time, and actually we are breaking records that were set in that summer that we always hark back to.
We do, yeah. My parents go on about it so much, and now it's part of history, because this is the future, isn't it?
This is the future, and we will see more of this as the future develops.
OK, Ben, thank you. It's good to talk to you. Now, the budget airline Ryanair has confirmed that a passenger aboard a flight from Thessalonica in Greece to Memmingen in Germany required medical attention after an aircraft window became dislodged in flight. These pictures show the aftermath of the incident. Reports quote passengers describing a loud bang, followed by the window breaking and oxygen masks falling from the ceiling shortly after the Boeing 737 had taken off. A man was reportedly partially sucked from the window headfirst as far as his shoulders. It's not immediately clear what caused the window to break. Ryanair said the aircraft landed normally and passengers returned to the terminal. The aircraft is believed to have been an 18-year-old plane operated by Ryanair's subsidiary Malta Air. Well, Simon Calder, who presents the Travel Expert podcast for The Telegraph, gave us this analysis.
We will find out in due course, Sarah, exactly what the sequence of events were. But in general, of course, it's absolutely implausible that from a perfectly standard aircraft, the age is really immaterial, you would have, during the course of the ascent, any kind of problem like this. It is extremely rare, I'm very glad to say, but just to go through the sequence of events, the plane departed from Thessaloniki on a completely normal flight, coded 1879 from Thessaloniki to Memmingen in southern Germany. It then had been aloft for 10 minutes when, at about 16,000 feet, this incident occurred. Ryanair is saying that a window became detached. I think it was rather more concerning than that. We understand that a 61-year-old Serbian man was partly sucked out of the window, although actually the way that it works in an explosive decompression like this, they're actually pushed because the air is leaving the aircraft very quickly. Fortunately, he was he was brought back in. He has suffered some injuries and has been treated, but everybody else was okay. The plane then descended, had to burn off fuel for some time, and didn't actually land for quite a while longer. When it did, the person was taken to hospital. Everyone else just left the aircraft normally, and indeed a new flight was put on a few hours later to take them to their destination. But a terrifying incident for all involved.
That was Simon Calder there. Now, for the first time in more than 900 years, the medieval Bayeux Tapestry has left France and arrived in London for a landmark exhibition at the British Museum. Our culture editor, Katie Razzle, watched it arrive.
In the dead of the night, the wait was over. A precious cargo delivered. The Bayeux Tapestry is back in Britain for the first time in nearly 1,000 years. History in the making. To the relief of the waiting dignitaries, one of whom had really dressed for the occasion.
It probably sounds a bit strange to be that excited about just seeing a lorry reverse into a loading bay and a box removed, but when you consider the object within it, how old it was, how close to the events it depicts it was made, and by people who lived through those events, it's really profound. I did well up a little bit seeing it taken off the lorry, so I imagine I'll probably be in floods of tears when I actually see it.
The Bayeux Tapestry is actually an intricate 70-metre-long work of embroidery, which tells the story in 58 scenes of the events leading up to the Battle of Hastings in 1066 and the Norman conquest of England.
1, 2 et tac, stop!
It took 90 people working carefully in tandem to take it off display in Normandy last year when the Bayeux Museum shut for renovation.
Tac, tac, stop!
Its loan to the UK sparked a petition in France to stop it, with fears it would be damaged in transit. But President Macron, who revealed last night that the tapestry was on its way, posting a projection of thanks on the White Cliffs of Dover, was determined this would bring Britain and France closer.
So do you think you can guarantee that when it gets out and into the museum and you check it over,
that's the goal,
there will have been no damage?
That's the goal, exactly. Like a museum would never do something that imperiled an object in its care or in its collection.
This is the exact spot where, up until just a few moments ago, the Bayeux Tapestry was. Of course, it's now been taken inside the museum, but it was transported here in the dead of night. And it wasn't the first time this truck has made that journey, because they have done several dry runs. That was to measure the vibrations, to make sure that they could keep the artwork as safe as possible.
Straight on. They'll find out whether the meticulous planning has paid off when they open the crate and begin to examine it. People lucky enough to get tickets to see the tapestry while it's here have another 2 months to wait until it goes on display. Katie Razzle, BBC News.
Hello there. We've seen the heat wave developing more widely in the strong sunshine. Over the weekend, it may not be quite as hot. There's going to be a stronger wind in some places as well. Also got some cloud and some rain in Scotland. It's been affecting northern Scotland. Could slip a little bit further south. Some more cloud for Northern Ireland. And a lot of misty low cloud in the North Sea will push its way towards eastern England by Saturday morning. Another warm one, mind you, although not quite as warm in the southeast as it was last night. For many parts of England and Wales, it'll be dry and hot and sunny on Saturday. There is this cloud across eastern England. It'll burn off inland but could linger around some coastal areas. And whilst the rain will move away from Scotland, there'll be more cloud here, as there will be in Northern Ireland. So here temperatures are going to be lower. And it's not going to be as hot across eastern parts of England. Those winds are pushing the heat further west. Temperatures of 32, 33 degrees are still quite likely. We've got high pressure centred to the north of the UK, and it's around it that we're drawing in this east to northeasterly wind. That's bringing in some slightly cooler air as well. The winds could be a bit stronger actually for England and Wales on Sunday, but it looks like it's going to be dry and sunny. The cloud will break up across Scotland, and we've got more sunshine in Northern Ireland. Here temperatures could be back into the mid-20s, but for England and Wales in that stronger wind, temperatures will be a little bit lower still, but it's still hot in places, could make 31 in the south.
With America's midterm elections looming, the president's power is being tested at home and abroad.
The cost of living and the war in Iran have put pressure on those here at the White House.
The stakes are high for Republicans and Democrats and for the American people.
For the latest, follow us on the president's path here on BBC News.
The players are in brilliant white, the courts are a lush green, and the towels are strawberry red. Welcome to Wimbledon. But who will win tennis's biggest prize? Well, that's to be decided. You can join me, Nesta McGregor, on BBC News, BBC Sport, or follow the latest online via the BBC News app.
An award-winning director, a top television news presenter, a film critic, and a cultural commentator each discuss their favourite classic American movie. Like the country's famous landmarks, they've chosen films that have shaped our vision of America. Join me, Tom Brooke, for Talking Movies on BBC iPlayer.
The wash of blue, that colour of nature, the seas, the sky, it's so immersive.
A lot of the fantasy that I have read is unsatisfactory for me because it's not interested in psychology, it's not interested in how people think or feel. I'm interested in people and the way they grow.
If you are fully in the moment, you are totally responding in the moment to everything that's happening. And when you're doing theatre, that can change night after night. It's a live, it's living, breathing, active thing.
I suppose to the outside world, the most visible part of the London Film Festival is the red carpet. And this year it brought out some of the biggest names in the film industry.
I think there is too little architecture in this world. We desperately need places that bring peace, that bring positivity.
Inspiring arts and culture. Watch on iPlayer.
Here at BBC Verify, we use forensic investigative techniques and tools to fact-check stories, verify information and counter disinformation. Using data analysis and the latest technology, our journalists examine the evidence and get to the facts. Watch our BBC Verify reports on the BBC News channel or go online to find out more.
This is BBC News, the headlines. Police arrest a man on suspicion of murdering the former British government minister and TV personality Anne Widdecombe. Wildfires in southern Spain kill at least 12 people. 4 of them are believed to be British. At least 23 others are missing. Ryanair admits that an aeroplane cabin window dislodged mid-air. People on board say a passenger was nearly sucked out. Buckingham Palace announces that Prince Harry, Meghan and their children have met with King Charles and Queen Camilla. Now, as we've been hearing, police have said that they have arrested a 26-year-old man in connection with the murder of the former government minister Anne Widdecombe. Police say they were called to an address in Dartmoor in Devon in the southwest of England on Thursday morning. They said Miss Widdecombe had sustained serious injuries. She'd served as a Member of Parliament for the Conservative Party for more than 2 decades and was a government minister in the 1990s. A staunch campaigner for Brexit, in later life she acted as a spokeswoman for the populist party Reform UK. Our political correspondent Nick Eardley looks back at her life.
Anne Widdecombe was a politician who spoke her mind, even when it was unpopular. Forthright, unflinching, and often adventurous. She was first elected to Parliament in 1987 when Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister.
It's a great opportunity that we've been given, and like Mrs Thatcher, I think it's a very major trust which we must discharge.
She served as a junior minister under John Major, most notably as Prisons Minister, where she faced controversy when it emerged that pregnant women were being handcuffed in hospital. She also attacked her former boss at the Home Office, Michael Howard, over his handling of the sacking of a senior prisons official.
We demean our high office if we mistreat our public servants.
She is perfectly entitled to disagree with my judgment. There is no basis for her attack on my integrity.
She later famously said Howard had something of the night about him, damaging his chances in the 1997 Tory leadership campaign. He spoke to the BBC before the police investigation was announced.
I was very sorry to hear of Anne's passing. She was a very feisty lady, and we worked together in the Home Office. We did, as you said, have our ups and downs. But I was really sorry to hear of her passing.
Widdecombe was a devout Catholic and a social conservative who opposed abortion. Her frank approach was refreshing to some, controversial to others.
I can't possibly tell you what I've got.
She left Parliament in 2010, but soon won over a new generation of admirers, the first prominent ex-politician to take part in Strictly Come Dancing. She was also runner-up on the 2018 series of Celebrity Big Brother. Brexit brought her back to politics. In 2019, she was elected an MEP for the Brexit Party and was expelled by the Tories for her candidacy.
We are going, and we are glad to be going.
She later joined Reform UK, recently serving as their immigration and justice spokesperson. Nigel Farage paid tribute today, saying the voters loved her. She played a decisive role in getting Brexit over the line and will be missed by us all. Boris Johnson paid tribute too, calling her a heroic Brexiteer and a great speaker who could move Tory audiences to such ecstasy that she was a very hard act to follow. Anne Widdecombe will be remembered as a conviction politician, but also a colourful character.
Well, let's speak now to the former Conservative Party leader, Sir Ian Duncan-Smith, a close colleague of Anne Widdecombe's for many years. Good evening to you. Our condolences to you and the many people who've known Anne Widdecombe over the years. It is such a sad day to hear of her passing, and as has now become clear, in such terrible circumstances.
Yes, I mean, it was a sad start to the day, which I woke up at about 6 o'clock to find the Today programme asking to speak to me, and it was the first I knew of it, and it was very sad. I've known her for a long time. We've worked together on a number of things, and that bad news, sad news, became an utter tragedy when we discovered later in the afternoon that actually the police believed there had been a murder take place. And I find it astonishing, sad because she's gone, sad because she was, in her own way, a characteristic and remarkable politician who wasn't frightened of anybody and wasn't prepared to step back if she believed fundamentally in what it was that she was arguing for, whether it was to do with stabilising marriage in lives, giving greater breaks to married couples to be able to bring up their children, whether it was to do with the Catholic Church, whether it was to do with faith, religion, whether it was to do with assisted dying, which she utterly opposed, even on fox hunting, where she was against, she was in favour of the ban. So she was always strong in her views. To find that life that had so much fun in it as well, as you saw on the dancing that she did, being spun around on the dance floor and lowered by wires, and then coming second in the celebrity house program. I can't remember the name of it now, but in all of that, I think it was remarkable. So she will be very, very missed, and I'm so sorry for her family for this terrible news.
Yeah, I mean, the police are asking people not to speculate on what may have happened, but we're right to talk about her life, because it was a colourful life, and she was one of those rare people, wasn't she, politicians that managed to cut through and appeal to people who perhaps didn't take much of an interest in politics, but most people knew of Anne Widdecombe.
They did, more latterly in her days rather than during her time when she was in government. But she became, in that rather controversial argument about women being handcuffed to their beds, where she was adamantly against the whole process, and eventually crossed swords with Michael Howard. That really brought her to the sight of the public. And then thereafter, her campaigns, as I said earlier on, strong campaigns on the things that she believed. She wasn't frightened of people saying, "Ooh, you're controversial." And in a way, she used to sort of say, "Well, if you're not controversial, you're not breathing. You have to believe in things, and if people don't like it, far better that they know what your argument is and you try and win them over." So she was, in a way, rather relevant to the sort of people that were in Parliament when I first came in. She was one of them, who were very tough debaters, particularly women that had to get through the hard way in those days. They were incredible characters, Gwyneth Dunwoody and others, and her as well. So the whole thing was about these tough people who had strong views and weren't frightened of giving them. And I think there's a lesson to all of us in politics today, which is, you know, if you believe in something strongly, then don't try and cavil or limit it. Say what it is and defend it.
And she also did something which now seems to be quite common, but back then when she put herself up for Strictly Come Dancing wasn't actually that common for a politician to do, taking quite a risk and perhaps risking ridicule, but actually increased her appeal to a whole different audience.
Yes, this is the point about her that isn't really much known, is that for all the toughness and for all the determination and her great belief, and as you have said earlier on, controversial beliefs, but nonetheless well-founded and deeply believed in, for all of that, she could also take a sideways look at herself and laugh. And she knew, you could see most of this thing, you know, when it was dancing or whether it was appearing in the House. These were all her, in a way, laughing at herself, because, you know, she knows and she knew what her persona was, but therefore she could also find it quite funny when she took that persona into areas that most politicians wouldn't dream of. And that's much like her defence of great causes, going in and doing those sort of programs which will be to an audience that nobody ever really is interested in politics. That audience suddenly got a taste of somebody who was a human being and made them laugh. And she happened also to be a politician, and I think, while she did herself good, I think she also did a lot for the idea of, you know, politics being about real people and real arguments. And I thought that was the great news about her, really, was that she could laugh at herself even when she's serious about subjects.
Indeed. Serena Duncan-Smith, thank you for speaking to us on what must be a very difficult day for you. Thank you. Within the past hour, we've heard that King Charles and Queen Camilla have hosted Prince Harry and Meghan and their children Archie and Lilibet. Earlier, the Duke of Sussex was welcomed by enthusiastic supporters of his Invictus Games as he arrived at the National Exhibition Centre in Birmingham. Well, let's speak to our royal correspondent Noor Nanji, who's at Althorp House in Northamptonshire. And Noor, this was the big question: would they or wouldn't they meet with the King? Of course, Archie and Lilibet's grandfather, and we now know they have.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, there's been so much speculation over this for the best part of a week. Really, would this meeting happen? We didn't even know whether Meghan and the two children would be here in the UK. But this is really significant because it is the last time that the King saw his grandchildren was more than 4 years ago, back in 2022. So from a personal perspective, you can see why this is really important. So as you say, this confirmation just coming in the last hour or so from Buckingham Palace, confirming that the King and Queen did host Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, and their two children, Archie and Lilibet, at Highgrove House earlier this afternoon. Now, if you're expecting to see a photo, sometimes we do see photos of events like this. We won't be seeing one. Buckingham Palace has been clear that this is a private family occasion, so there will not be any imagery or photographs released from this meeting today. But clearly, as I say, really significant. You know, Prince Harry has spoken about his desire for a reconciliation with his family. Of course, we know that relations there have been strained ever since Prince Harry and Meghan moved to the US and stopped being working royals. And in last year's interview with the BBC News, he spoke about his desire for reconciliation. He then went on himself to meet the King at Clarence House. But we know that sources say that there was a desire from the King and Prince to meet on this trip as well, and also that the King was keen to meet with his grandchildren. So we know now that that meeting has happened in private. And we won't be getting any photos of it. I think it is worth mentioning that while this meeting was happening at Highgrove House, we know that Prince William was at a charity polo match in Windsor, and there are no plans for Prince William and Prince Harry to meet on this trip. That relationship between the brothers still remains strained.
No, this has been a difficult trip, I think, for royal correspondents to keep across, because there have been mixed messages. And, you know, Meghan was originally due to accompany Prince Harry on public engagements and then wasn't. Prince Harry was going to stay in Buckingham Palace and then didn't. It's been difficult and, in some descriptions, chaotic.
I think chaotic is the right word for it. I mean, what we had over the weekend was the announcement that Meghan and the children would not accompany Harry on the London leg of the trip because of security concerns that Prince Harry has spoken about before. But then there was still this question mark about whether they would then accompany him later in the week to the Midlands in Birmingham today and so on. But then last night we got the confirmation that Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, would not be attending any of those events, that she would not be at any public-facing events today or over the weekend. But there was still speculation that she would be attending and the children would be attending events in private. Clearly, that is now what has happened. And there is further speculation that while they're here, they may also visit Princess Diana's grave, which is in Althorp, very close to where we are now. Of course, we don't have any official confirmation that that is the plan.
OK, our royal correspondent Noor Nanji, thank you. Around the world and across the UK, this is The World Today on BBC News. Hello, welcome back. Now at the World Cup, it's almost kick-off time in the quarter-final clash between Spain and Belgium in Los Angeles. The winner, we now know, will play France in the semi-finals. Well, elsewhere in the World Cup, Norway players and fans are stealing the show with their viral football chant. Now, the Viking-inspired fan ritual is rooted in ancient Norwegian rowing traditions and will be a main spectacle as they take on England in their quarter-final clash on Saturday. The craze has even spread to politicians in the Norwegian Parliament. Let's take a look at the elected representatives in the Norwegian Parliament.
Første slaget kommer. Heia Norge!
Now we can speak to Masood Garankani, President of the Parliament, who led that Viking row. Hello to you.
Hello, good to be with you.
That was great. Is that the first time a Viking row has ever been entered into the Norwegian Parliament?
It has. So I was a little bit nervous about the rhythm of the members of the Parliament, but they delivered great. And as I told them, that's a message from the heart of our democracy to our football team, that we support them, and I think that was a good thing to do.
I mean, it's become such a part of this year's World Cup. Slightly torn, obviously we're broadcasting from here in England, but my goodness me, the Viking row is brilliant, and presumably a brilliant way to enthuse both the players and the crowds.
Yeah, you know, I think each World Cup, it's a special team that wins the heart of the people, no matter which country you're from. And I think this World Cup, you know, the row movement has touched many people. And when I actually did that in the Parliament, I got a message from the guy who started it. He started the fan club and do the row movement. And he said the message is, of course, unity, supporting the team, but also a message about peace and standing together. So I think that's a beautiful message in the world we're living now.
Is football a massive sport already in Norway?
You know, it's a football fever in Norway, but for us, it's because of that we have broken the curse. After 28 years, we are a part of the World Cup, and that we are a part of the quarterfinals. That's historical. That's never happened before. And of course, having players like Haaland and Ødegaard, They are well known all over the world, and I think that's a great thing for Norway. And football is one of the biggest things happening in the world. So I think that's something that moves all of us, and everybody is watching the World Cup, and also in Norway. So after the last match we won in our capital, Oslo, it was over 100,000 people coming outside. That's a city of 700,000 people. And even His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, participated in the Ro-Ro movement that night.
How much is Erling Haaland going to be a national hero by the time he returns home, regardless of the result this evening, tomorrow?
I think everybody knows who Haaland is, and he is a national hero, and he's delivering. And tomorrow's match will be a really good match and a tough match. You know, think about, you have Haaland, Norway, and you have Kane, two of the best strikers in the world. So let's see who the best team is tomorrow.
Yeah, how confident are you feeling? Because on paper, England should have it, but we all know that things don't always go according to the script.
Well, I have to give a message to my good friend and the speaker of your house, Sir Lindsay Hoyle. The Vikings are coming for you. So we have the great team, so it will be a tough match, but I'm optimistic. I hope we will win and go further.
We'll make sure Lindsay Hoyle gets that message. Good luck tomorrow. And it has been a joy watching the row being performed all over the United States and indeed much wider than that. Masoud Garankhani, thank you so much. Now, as I said earlier, Spain take on Belgium in Los Angeles. Well, in the next few minutes, Spanish football journalist Guillem Balaguer will be following the action in the US, and he gave us his thoughts ahead of the big game.
You have to say that Spain has only been in one semi-final in a World Cup ever. So getting to this stage is something relatively new to us. But at the same time, you have to say we are the favourites. This is a team that's conceded no goals. Spain has conceded no goals. It's a team that shoots on goal more often, normally dictates what happens on the pitch. And the script is written that if Spain does what they're supposed to do, they will qualify. But those scripts very often, they just go like, and there are accidents and things happening. Belgium are in a good mood and absolutely nothing to lose.
Those scripts certainly do get rewritten quite quickly, don't they? Let's talk a little bit about France, because they are now in the semi-final, looking so strong. Is any team going to be able to stop them, do you think?
I've been looking for reasons to believe that they are favourites here, but they can be beaten, and they're very few, not many. Well, Spain, actually, who will face them in the semi-finals if we go through, have beaten the last two times that they met, maybe, but they look stronger and stronger, and if they don't play well, they've got Mbappe just sorting them out. Clear favourites, but in 90 minutes, you never know.
Balaguer, and we can see their fans, Spanish fans. We've got some Brussels fans as well. Very much looking forward to that game that starts in less than 10 minutes. Do stay with us on BBC News. Let's stick with sport because it is men's semi-finals day at Wimbledon, and the wild card UK hopeful Arthur Ferry is out after losing in straight sets to Alexander Zverev. And Wimbledon favourite Novak Djokovic is also out, losing in straight sets to Jannik Sinner. So it sets up a Sinner-Zverev final as a new era of men's tennis stars begins to dawn. Let's speak to Joel Gerling, head of the Tennis Weekly podcast. Hello to you. So, I mean, it was going to be a big ask, wasn't it, for Arthur Ferry to get through? How did he play?
Yeah, I mean, he played to the best I think anyone could have expected. I think the reality is Zverev is a player who is high on confidence at the moment. He is the Roland Garros champion, and really since then his game has transformed. I was very impressed today with how aggressive he was. His serve, his first serve and his second serve, and Arthur Ferry he didn't really have any answers. It felt a little bit too predictable towards the end. And what worked really well in his previous round against Cobolli, coming to the net, pressuring his opponent, I felt that Zverev was able to handle that, and he handled the occasion really well, which actually surprised me because there have been some big matches in the past when that's not necessarily been the case for Zverev.
But what a brilliant run for him, and for Brits to have somebody through who they probably haven't heard of before has been fantastic.
Yes, I agree. I think it's one of the reasons we all love Wimbledon, because grass is so unpredictable and it can really lend itself to these types of stories. I always remember growing up with Goran Ivanisevic, who was the last wild card in the gentlemen's singles to reach this stage. So yeah, it's very, very impressive. It's definitely a turnaround, I think, from the first week when we were talking about kind of British prospects. Jack Draper was withdrawing, Emma Raducanu was withdrawing. All the wild cards, qualifiers, whoever it was, were being defeated in the singles. So to go from that to this moment's been fantastic. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. I think the next goal for him will be, can he back it up? Can he prove this wasn't a fluke and establish himself more at the top end of the ATP Tour?
Well, that is what I was going to ask you, because we've seen sort of one-hit wonders, if you like, in British tennis before. Are you confident that he's got what it takes to go further in the game?
I think so. I think so far this tournament he has handled the moment, the hype, and the occasion very, very well. So I don't necessarily see him being flung into the spotlight as the British #1 now as something that is going to hinder him. I think also the fact that he hasn't really got that many ranking points to defend for the rest of the year. So I think he's going to be able to play with a bit more freedom. He's got that protection of a higher ranking. It's going to get him into main draws at the top level events, Grand Slams as well. It's going to guarantee him prize money. So yeah, I think he's set up a really good platform. We'll have to see if he can take this grass court form into the hard courts, but I think it's very promising early days indeed.
And just finally, Novak Djokovic, he's out.
Yes, the quest for Grand Slam 25 goes on. He lost to Jannik Sinner today. He lost to Jannik Sinner in straight sets last year at Wimbledon. We thought it might be a different story because Djokovic beat Sinner in 5 sets at the Australian Open earlier this year. But really, I think that the story of this match was Sinner and his serve. I mean, his serving this tournament has been immaculate. Djokovic, I was in his press and he spoke about the fact that it's so hard to read the Sinner serve. It's so hard to attack the Sinner serve. And even if you just chip return it, you just give him the ascendancy in the point. So yeah, it was always going to be a tough order, particularly because he had that match against Felix Auger-Aliassime. 39 years old. Yes, very tough.
Really good to talk to you, Joel. It's delightful tennis left to watch. Thank you so much. Now, just before we break for the break, police in South Africa say they've arrested a man in connection with the triple murder of a woman and her 2 children near Bedford. I'm sure you'll remember the story. More coming up at the top of the hour.
Hello there.